So what I'll be talking about is basically the way forward, the strategy. And one thing that struck me when I prayed about this was actually God is asking us to continually refresh our vision. So we set out last year 5 goals that we had, 5 work streams, and God is telling us to think really hard about what we're doing. And he pulled out a number of scriptures for me. One of them, which isn't actually on here, just came out today, which is, so neither he who plants, nor he who sows, nor he who waters is anything, only God who gives it growth. Everything we do comes from God. We need to be renewed in our spirit. We need to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. We need to listen to what God has to say. And that's part of the journey. So we've heard from Roz many, many things that are happening. We need to make sure that with the small resources that we have, that we are doing the right things. And that's why we have a strategy. So Jesus had a strategy with 12 disciples, going to 72, sent them out. He spent 3 years doing specific activities. We have a strategy as well. And what God is seeking to do to us is to take us from the plant that we are into a tree, into something which will be very visible, a light on a hill. Something that is visible across our nation. And that's important to us. Could you take the next slide, please? Okay, so we need to treasure the words that God gives us. And I know a number of you have seen this before a number of times. It's important for us to reflect on them, to treasure them, and to listen to what God has got to say to us all the time. So our strategy is built on these and a number of others as well. And I would say, if you hear from God about transform work, let us know. Whatever it looks like, whatever it feels like, let us know so we can build it in. The first one of these is around visibility, which to me doing a lot of work, and actually for a small organisation, we've made a massive difference across the organisation so far. With our 500 companies that we're influencing directly, with the work that we're doing with many different partners. It's massive work, but not being seen. And as we make it visible, then that will help us to increase the work. Second one I want to look at is actually the need for prayer. Ross has gone into that a bit already. It's basically, as we pray, God empowers us. God is our firepower for liftoff. He will help us to grow if we listen to him and if we're obedient. And then another picture which came to Andrew Humphreys, which really resonates with me and I'm sure with a number of other people, is the concept, the idea of Dunkirk, where big boats would not have worked. Big boats would not have saved people on the shore. It was many small boats, and that's integral to what we do across transform work. Many of the things we do are very small scale, but they all build up together to make a massive difference. So can we have the next slide? So I was talking about reflection. The world of work has changed, and here are some quotes by some fairly famous people. If you still use Facebook, then Mark Zuckerberg is saying just how productive people are at home. Think back to March 2020, I think it would probably be about 5 to 10 years before people started using video conferencing in their daily work. Now it's accepted, and all we're doing is working through the etiquette. And as we've moved to virtual work, it's just been something we've had to do. People have refused to go back into offices because it works so well with them. An interesting one here actually is from Hayden Brown in Upwork, where talking about diversity. It's actually been a massive change because of the home working, the virtual working, and people see much more into people's lives. They see the issues that people have with children, with childcare. They see the situations they have where they have to manage deliveries. Things are changing. Working from home is difficult at times, One of the concepts there is actually, how do you delineate between time you spend at work and the time you spend family or outside or with transform work on a call, AGM? So I've got two laptops here. The one next to it is the one I was working on half an hour ago. That would never have happened. We can also see changes in the way that hierarchies are working within organizations. And that's really important to transform work. We seek to engage with senior management. Actually, that's probably getting easier because senior management can very easily come onto Zoom calls, Teams calls, and actually they're just somebody else on the call. So it's changed, and we need to think about how we react to that. Can we move on, please? So very briefly, there are various new channels and ways of working. And I think we need to think through what the impacts are. So maybe virtual and hybrid working would have come along some point, but now it's more the norm. And that changes how our groups meet. Some of them are finding it very difficult to meet. They've only got 2 or 3 people coming, whereas previously they had a lot more. Some are using it as a springboard to link up nationally and internationally. I spent some time working for consultancy, and we had a Hope Explored course, which was geared for the UK, but we had people coming in from right around the world, from the US, from Europe, from Asia. There's a lot of opportunity there to explore. And as I was saying, it actually helps people to see deeper into relationships with people. So it's not at work and at home, they're combined now. And also this means that in-person meetings are actually quite valuable. We want to move on. The other aspect that I want to explore very briefly is actually purpose. And this feeds directly into where we are with transform work. We want to change the way that organizations think, the cultures of organizations, their values. And we can see that people react to going back to work in the office or going back to work full time. Something that people are working through at the moment, and some of the things we will have seen, are that people down tools and they say, I'm not going to do this. And they go and find another job. Or they say, actually, I'm not going to do any more than what I have to, like quitting. So the key point here is around actually people looking for purpose in their work. And this is something we can draw on. Well-being and diversity and inclusion are even stronger on the HR agenda. And we can feed directly into it. Do you want to move on? So going back to where we were, had a mission for growth in 2021's 25 strategy. I think it still applies. So you might have expected something different, but actually, I think we've just got a different flavour. What we're looking to do is to build foundations, then make a deeper impact within organisations we're linked with, to widen in the UK and globally, and probably even more importantly, to influence our culture. A lot of the work we've been doing over the last year has actually been building up a team that can build our foundations for us. So this continues. Next slide. Okay, and these are our 5 key areas of growth, which are where we were before. What this does is it actually helps us to see what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. Keeps us on track to some extent. And you will have seen in all, everything that Ros has talked about, that these feed into one of these. And we see that as we develop on each one of these elements, that God will help us to grow. And what we have found is that fundraising is effectively linked directly to marketing. So as we increase, as we improve our message, they will be able to explain to people the value that we're adding, and people are more likely to do us. Those two now go together. It's great to see more ambassadors, because we had a bit of a tail off. And it's great to see faith in the workplace with faith-friendly workplaces and diversity and inclusion. So all of this is taken forward. Next slide. Okay, now this is a bit more detail. One of the things we're doing is we're actually changing our brand. That's obviously quite a difficult thing to do. The brand's been around for 10, 15 years. It's also something that we need to communicate out to a lot of different audiences. We did some marketing analysis last year with Tessa Webb from Creatives into Business. One of the key things I found actually from it was the variety of audiences that we have, from people who support us already to people who may support us, people who don't know us, to people who not see the relevance of us, sometimes that's church, to those who could actually really take us forward in terms of money with trusts, and linking into HR. So there are all kinds of different audiences. So this is quite a challenge. We appointed Ria Summers as graphic designer. As Rosa said, she's based in Spain, which I think is really helpful to give us more of a global outlook. So this is something we'll be working through. One of the interesting things about this is that God has told us to take it slowly, to engage with people, to build it up, rather than actually just rip it in over 2 or 3 months. So prayer support for this will be really, really helpful. Next slide. Okay, and just 2 specific challenges to take away that we're working on. First one is around partnership. There are lots and lots of organisations who, in a sense, play in the workplace. They have different aspects, have different ways of communicating within the workplace with Christians, and help in different ways. And one of the things we're working through is who should we partner with closely to grow our mission. Well, the second one is around moonshots. So this is basically a concept where we do big things. God is calling us to do big, obvious, visible things, to take up challenges. 2, we are already challenging in detail already, growing our ambassador base to 72. And also we've got a concept where we will link up with 12 partner countries. We've got some of those, but there's a long way to go there. But a key thing that God is calling us to is to be more visible, move onto the national stage in a way that people will see us and will respond. So, for example, these are just examples, and it'd be really good if people had a think and a pray and see if there's anything else we could do. But a National Day of Workplace Prayer, a national summit, groups and maybe involving leaders in society, working with established churches and helping them to see that Christian workplace groups need to be on a par with church life groups. Radical changes we're looking for here. So in all of these and across all our strategy. Yeah. So thanks. Me.